Hello again, it's been a while. I've been decluttering the house and I've stumbled across this old tablet. It's a Tesco Hudl2, back from 2014, and for the price of around £129 back in the day, or even cheaper if you had a Tesco Club card, this little device was fairly decent spec for the time that it was in. So let's actually look over the specs. Tesco branded but manufactured by Pegatron Corporation. The CPU is an Intel Atom Z3735D, a quad-core processor at 1.83 GHz per core, with a colossal 2 GB of RAM, 16 GB of storage, although only 9.2 is actually usable, an 8.3-inch IPS panel with a 1920 by 1200 resolution, classed as Full HD, with 273 pixels per inch. It isn't short on connectivity either. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, micro USB, micro HDMI, 3.5mm audio jack, SD card slot, and all of this powered Android 5.1 Lollipop with up to 8 hours battery life. Sadly though, in October 2015, that saw the end of life for the Hudl2. And in 2020, Tesco shut down all their servers and expired all of their security certificates for the device. That's basically left the Hudl2 now in limbo with no support, no updates, no real way of factory restoring it without a lot of messing around. So what use is it? Well, I've had an idea. We've all seen the current bloom of mobile gaming, and that made my tiny and fragile little mind have a fairly distinct brain fart. Can we turn this into something a bit good? Can we create something that's usable? Can we turn this into something a bit good and usable that's also cool and portable as an Evercade XP? Let's find out. It may be worth noting that you can do this with any old Android 5 or newer device. So if you have an unused Android-based tablet or phone lying around, you can do this too. Anywho, moving on, the software we will get from the Play Store. We'll search for Retroarch. Now because this Hudl2 is on Android 5.1, we only see this version. This is the lowest supported Android version on the Play Store. If you are using Android 8 or newer, you'll be able to download Retroarch Plus. This is a newer version with more cores available, but both will cover all of the systems that you'd like to emulate and depending on the specifications of your hardware, could emulate. As a side note, because we're downloading from the Play Store, some of the cores etc. are restricted due to Google's regulations. If you want the full fat Retroarch experience, you can download the APK from the Retroarch or LibRetro websites. This will give you access to all the core variants available. But what Play offer here is perfect for the Hudl and Android 5.1. So let's continue and download and install Retroarch. Okay, that was painless. We're now going to get a front end for ease of use, and Dig is the one I'd recommend for this project. It's freemium and compatible with the version of Android we're using. There are other options out there, but these are either not working with the Hudl2 or you have to buy them. Now if you're using a newer Android device, you could download Dig from the Play Store. However, for the older versions of Android, we'll need to get this from this particular website. And the version we want is version 1.44.1. So let's download this and get it installed. Tap Done and close the browser. So now that's downloaded and installed, it's time to create our Games Catalogue. Obviously, I can't advise where to get the ROMs and BIOS files from, but Google searching may help you here. So for this part, I have a 32GB SD card I'm going to set up, and the folder structure is going to look like this. We're going to make this tidy and easy to use. The emulation folder will contain all our working folders for Retroarch. The naming convention is simple. Our BIOS files will go in the BIOS folder, games in the games folder, and themes, this will be for our dig front end. That I'll cover later. If you're not using an SD card, you can connect your device to your PC in USB mode. And create this folder structure directly. Okay, next is the BIOS editions. These go in the BIOS folder. You can Google these as packs. Although they will contain more than you will use, it's always useful to have them all for possible future projects. Let's add the games. These will go in the games folder. The Evercade comes with a Capcom collection built in, 18 games. So I've matched those as close as possible using the MAME emulation. These will go in the MAME folder. Now anything else on the Evercade would cost us to get the game cartridge. And maybe we'll only get a few games that we like on each cartridge. So what we can do, using ROMs of games we own, add these into the mix also. Retroarch supports many systems, but we will only be held back by the hardware we're using. So let's add a few more titles here, and we'll test what it's capable of later. Now we have all that in place, it's time to set up the Hudl. The SD card, slot it in there. Now let's launch Retroarch. When it's done doing its thing, we'll start by telling Retroarch where to find the BIOS files. Tap the cog icon, scroll down to the directories, and tap on that. Tap on System BIOS, then tap on Storage, and then SD card 1. Select Emulation, and finally BIOS, followed by Use this directory. Retroarch will now always look in here for the BIOS for any of the systems we select to use. Okay, let's tap the Home option to get back to the main Retroarch menu. Now we need to select the cores. To do this, tap Online Updater. Then Core Downloader. And select the core matching the systems you have ROMs for. You may notice a few of these have different cores available. Some cores work better than others, but you can change these later if needed. So, for the games I have, I'll select the following. For the arcade games, Final Burn Neo. For the Atari Lynx, Beetle Lynx. For the Nintendo Game Boy, we're going to use Same Boy. For the Nintendo Super Nintendo, we're going to use SNES 9X Current. And for the Sega systems, Master System, Mega Drive, Mega CD and 32X, we're going to use Pico Drive. And for the Sony PlayStation, we're going to go with PCSX Rearmed. So now that we've got the cores, let's press the Home button, returning to the Retroarch main menu, scroll down, and then we're going to quit Retroarch. So, on we go. Launch Dig, and let that do its thing. Now it's ready, it wants to know where the games are. So, tap OK. Then tap Select Folder to scan. tap SD card 1, then emulation, then games, and finally tap confirm. Dig is now going to go through all of our folders, find all of the games and sort them into appropriate systems. Once that completes, slide the menu from the left and tap Systems. And there they are. Next we need to associate these systems to the cores we chose in Retroarch. To do this, select the system and then in the top right corner, tap the 3 dots for the system menu. Now select Manage System. And this top option here needs to be the core you selected in Retroarch. So, as this is Arcade, we selected Retroarch Final Burn Neo. Now we set this, all the games in this system by default will use that core. So let's test this. Now you'll notice Dig adds controls to the screen, which is great if you haven't got a controller or just want this setup to be as minimal as possible. However, I'm not a fan of the touchscreen controls, so we'll add a controller later. Anyway, back to setting up Dig to use the cores, so let's quickly go through the other systems. So what happens if you have a game in one of the systems that works better with a different core? Well, it's as easy as this. Launch Retroarch. Go to Online Updater or Downloader and select the alternate core. For example, I'll quickly select Genesis plus GX. And then close Retroarch. Go back into Dig, select the system Sega Genesis, select the game, tap the 3 dots in the top right corner, this will open the game menu, tap Manage Game, tap the core option at the top of the list and now select the core we just added to Retroarch, Genesis plus GX. So now this game will use the core selected over the default system core we set earlier. There also seems to be a duplication issue with some of the games. To remedy this issue, do the following. Open the system, tap the 3 dots, tap View, then tap Merge Games. Now that's more like it. Just as a side note, you may need to do this per system. Usually it's the CD based ones. Now that's sorted, let's move on. We have our games and systems sorted, so let's make Dig look better. Moving back to the PC, you can either take the SD card and slot it in there, and then there, depending on your SD card reader. Or, like me, just use the USB cable and connect your Hudl direct. The website we need is this one, digdroid.com, and we'll select Themes. There's a lot to choose from in here. All are listed with a preview, so it's just a case of like what you see, scroll down to the link, and then click the download. For this, I quite like the reunified and retro box themes, but this is down to your preference and flavour. You can also change this whenever you wish. Now we have our selections downloaded, and let's copy this over to our themes folder. Okay, that's all done. We can now put the SD card back in the Hudl if you did that, or disconnect the Hudl from the USB cable. On the Hudl, open Dig. Select Options, and then Themes. Tap Install Theme. From this option screen, select the SD card 1 option, and then up, followed by up again, and up once more. Tap the Emulation folder, Themes, select the theme you chose. Confirm, and wait for the install. Tap Select Theme, and then the theme you selected. And there you go. So let's see what this theme has changed. And don't forget, you can go back and do this all again if you want to add another theme. We're on the home stretch now. Close Dig. Let's add a Bluetooth controller. You'll need to select one that has all the buttons needed for the systems you're using. You can use a PlayStation or Xbox controller, or any other controller that you wish to. However, I'm going to try and make this a portable retro system. So I'm using this. I'll put a link in the description. It's not the best, but it works well for this project. And it extends enough to put the Hudl in. So, let's connect the controller. Go to the settings, tap Bluetooth, enable if needed, let it scan, select the controller. In this case, it's the PG9083S, but you'll select the controller of your choice. And when it's paired and connected, we can close this and go back to the home screen. Let's go into Retroarch to set this up. You may need to press a button on the controller for Retroarch to detect it. My controller is currently being registered as an Amazon Fire Game controller. Tap the cog icon to go into settings. Tap Input. Scroll down to Port 1 Controls and tap this. Tap Device Type. If you have a controller with analog sticks, select RetroPad with analog. Scroll down and tap Set All Controls and follow the prompts, holding each button or stick request for a couple of seconds. So here we go. Now that's configured, We now have to save the controller profile. Next we need to set our hotkeys. This allows us to use the controller to enter the Retroarch menu when in game, and it'll also allow us to quit Retroarch from inside the games as well. So tap the back button, scroll up to the hotkeys and tap that. Tap on Menu Toggle Controller Combo. This setting is for the Retroarch menu access. I'm going to use L2 plus R2 for this. That's both shoulder buttons. Now we'll do the quit controller combo, and for this I'm going to use Start and Select. Tapping these together will close the game. The final step for this setup is to stop the on-screen buttons appearing. If you're using these, don't do this part. So tap the back button twice, so we go back to the Retroarch settings page and scroll down to the on-screen display. Tap that. Tap on Screen Overlay. All we need to do here is enable Hide Overlay when controller is connected. Tap the Home button, scroll down and tap on Quit Retroarch. This will save the settings and close Retroarch for us. And now to fully remove the on-screen controls in Dig. This will need to be completed per system. So let's make a start. Open the system, tap the three dots in the top right corner, tap Manage System, tap the Retroarch overlay, now select Default Overlay. Setting this allows Retroarch to use its own overlay when there is no controller connected. And it also allows the pass-through of our hotkey settings. So let's do all the other systems. We are now all set up and ready to use the Hudl2 as a retro games console. But there is something else we could do. We can set our Dig front end to automatically start at sign in. So, into options we go, tap on App, and toggle on AutoStart Dig on device boot. And there we go. Nice. Well, there we have it. The out-of-date and almost useless Hudl2 has a new life again. And in my opinion, I think we've created something amazing here. It's as cool and portable as the Evercade XP, and it also means there is one less device in the e-waste too. So let me know what you think in the comments below. There are other settings in both Retroarch and Dig that I haven't mentioned or needed to go into in this video. If you're looking for anything I didn't cover, I would suggest having a look around inside both the apps. Or leave a comment if you want a video on something specific and we'll see what we can do. And on that blue screen of death, I'll see you in the next one.